This is Gerhard Pistorius coming to you live, and I've got two very special guests with me today. They were the ones who were working on the 48-hour film project this year, alongside each other as father and son. We have here today the legendary veteran filmmaker Gray Hofmeyr, who is a veteran of more than 40 years, and he has produced some of the most commercially successful films ever produced in South Africa. And with us today is his son, Jonathan.
Most people call me Ziggy. My nickname is Ziggy.
Yeah, and I want to start off by saying what a privilege it is to have you two here today. And I thought I would start off with you, Mr. Hofmeyr. I wanted to talk to you about, particularly about your 40-year career. Why don't you tell us a bit about how that started?
Okay. Well, I mean, I started off when I finished with school in the army. I got involved with a kind of a traveling musical roadshow called Springbok Stampede, Springbok Stormloop, which had sort of semi-religious background, but it wasn't a Bible bashing thing. Anyway, I started off in the singing and dancing in the front row, and then I started directing that thing because the guy that was behind it recognized that I had some talent in that area. I don't know why. Anyway, so I did that, and then that came to an end, and the guy that had run it, a guy called Nico Ferreira, said to me, "Listen, man, television is going to come." Because at that stage, there was no television in South Africa, because the Nationalist Party didn't want us to see what was going on in the rest of the world. But then the time arrived where they had to open it up, and let us see. So I thought, and then I said, well, what can I do? And Nico said, go overseas, go and try and learn in the UK. And my dad, who was he was trained as a predikant, in fact, but he was a missionary of sorts. Anyway, that's beside the point. But he knew people in the UK, and he got me in there with somebody, and I got in. I did probably a 2-month course in television production in Glasgow. And then I ended up staying in the UK for 2.5 years. And I went over there when I was 21.
Sure.
And I managed to get work around the place, particularly in Belfast, Belfast was wild in those days. It was the heart of what they called the Troubles. The Troubles were very big in Belfast at that time. And so nobody wanted to work there because it was so dangerous. So I worked there quite a lot. And that's where I had a wonderful time. Anyway, so that's where I learned my trade. And I came back right at the start of television here. So in the land of the blind, I was the guy with one eye.
The most prolific filmmaker at the time, the 70s and the 80s was Jamie Ice, with Daar Doornie Bosveld and The Gods Must Be Crazy. Did you ever get to work with him?
No, I never worked with him. We met each other quite a few times, and he came to me one day and he said, Gray, for gesels. And he said, he wants me to become his heir, the heir to the creative throne in the films. And I was hell chuffed with that until I discovered from about 5 other people, like Greta, who else? I don't know. Other people who were also young filmmakers at the time. And Jamie had said the same thing to all of them.
Really what it comes down to, I think, that a young person needs is encouragement. There's the two main things, is encouragement and incentive. And I would like to ask Ziggy, what is the main thing for you? What do you want to do in the film industry, and what is the biggest challenge of getting it done?
Well, I mean, I'm 20 years in now. So when I first studied, it was always about becoming a director. And I've done a lot of directing work since. And for me now, as a father, it's more about, just creating a good lifestyle for myself and my family, where I can just move from one project to the next. And I always enjoy the work. It does get crazy and hardcore and tiring at times, but it's a great industry to work in, because you're always you're always learning new things. You have to always do a new level of research, you know, and learn a new subject matter, and then kind of put your wheels in motion and plan a new project. So everything is every project is a little bit different, even though you're always kind of working with the same theory as a script that needs to be performed and put into an editing system and punched out at the end of the day. But there's always something new to learn nonetheless, which I love. So I started off wanting to just be a director, and I've directed many projects. I started in music videos, which is a great place for anyone, I think, to begin their career, because there's lots of artists out there who want music videos done for free, and you'll just help a friend out or an artist out, and there's not many rules with music videos. You can be very creative and get away with a lot. So I did music videos, but then I got into multi-camera drama. I directed at Isidingo for a while, then Rhythm City, and then I did some movies as well. Me and Dad actually worked on a film a couple of years ago. It was during COVID, which we co-wrote and co-directed, called Little Big Mouth. And now I just take it one project at a time, in terms of, do I want to be a director or just a professional in the industry? So, you know, I enjoy creating movies is where my heart lies, and family movies, because I'm a family man.
We had the opportunity to speak to someone who was the music producer on My Octopus Teacher.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Oscar-winning documentary film. And it was an amazing conversation to have with him. He was actually a winner of SA's Got Talent a few years ago. I think it was 2012, somewhere along there. Kevin Smits is his name. Smits, S-M-U-T-S. He's a very gifted music maker. And he said to me, you know, he hasn't really done anything since the film wrapped up, because he says, My Octopus Teacher was a passion project that took over 10 years to put together, you know, the editing, the filming. That was done over a 10-year period. And once the film wrapped, you know, that was it, you know, and he had nothing else to do. So he went off and he did another like a workshop that was not related to making music or movies, because since the film wrapped, he went on to get married, he started a family, he became a homeowner. And I think that is really the challenge of young people starting out, because the thing is, it takes 20 years, you know, before people start recognizing you for what you can do. And to get started, it's just such a difficult thing to do. I've been doing my 9-to-5 job for the last 7 years, and I was coming up with all these excuses of why I'm not making movies. You know, I'm coming up, you know, I don't have the money to do this. I cannot afford to rent this camera. I cannot afford to pay professional actors. You know, I can't go to a seamstress to make me special costumes. There's a lot of things that I can't do, and there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be doing it. The passion didn't go anywhere. It was just put in the back of my head, because it wasn't happening, and there were a lot of reasons why it won't be happening. And then I thought to myself, you know, I think it's not good enough, you know. So I went back to the film school where I graduated, which is the Open Window campus based in Centurion. And I actually spoke to the head of the film department, and I asked him, isn't there like a vacancy for a guy like me, essentially do a workshop once a week, you know, come in once a week and show them how to set up cameras, how to do a storyboard, how to write a script, how to do these things. And he said, you know, the thing is, you're one of over 80 applicants. There's a lot of guys like you who are looking for work because it's not happening for them.
But you know, most of the people that get work, I think, in the industry are people that start out doing very little or almost no money, and slowly you get somewhere. I mean, my tiny little 6 weeks that I did training, okay, that was a start without which I couldn't have got there. But it was only 6 weeks, or maybe it was 8, in Glasgow. But it's only you learn, you know. And I always, and most of the people that I've had this conversation with have started off work. A lot of them work for free. You know, I started Isidingo and I ran it for on and off for 22 years until it, you know, it was taken off. And there, I mean, I remember one guy, Toomey, he came in one day and he said, I'm going to work here for free. And whoever it was said, no, sorry, you can't. He said, well, no, well, I'll be back here tomorrow. And then he was there the next day saying, you know, well, here I am. So eventually they said, oh, okay, you know, go and sit in the corner there. And slowly he worked his way up. And he's now, you know, he works as a director. Mm-hmm. And he's working, he's in work all the time. But that's how he started. And a lot of people have done it like that. And it's difficult, but it can be done. Anyway, it's just another way.
You wanted to add something about that?
Look, there's many ways, and there's also different areas. I mean, you have your multi-camera television dramas. You have, you know, your single-camera movies. Like I said, you know, you have music videos, which are kind of very different, but follow the same principles. But you know, the guys who make commercials don't necessarily know the guys who make TV dramas and the guys who make music videos. They're all following the same principles, but they don't really. It's almost different industries. So you also need to decide what industry within the industry you kind of want to work in, and in what role you want to work in. Do you want to become a director? Do you want to work as a writer? Do you want to work as a DOP? Or do you just want to be a paid technician, which is also absolutely fine? You know, do you just want to be the guy who sets up the lights? Because the guys who set up lights are always in work. You know, the guys who set up the dolly and the tripod are always in work. The guys who struggle the most to find work are the creative guys, like your directors and your writers, because you have to be pitching projects all the time, and sometimes it can take years. Whereas just a technician, they just go from one project to the next. A good technician is always in demand. Good DOPs, and we have plenty of good DOPs in South Africa, are always in demand. Good editors are always in demand. But I think that is a good point. That, you know, if you really, I think if you're passionate about it and kind of dogged about it, and you don't take no for an answer, you'll eventually find your way in. You know, in any industry, if you have that kind of attitude. And I think that is more the kind of people that find themselves working in this television business versus you know, someone with a diploma or honors degree in filmmaking. The certificate, no one has ever asked me for a certificate. I didn't finish my film school training, and no one has ever asked me for that. You know, it's very much first of all, it's your network that you get work in, and then and kind of word of mouth. And then it's maybe your showreel. Next is your showreel.
Yeah. I actually watched a 5-minute interview with Martin Scorsese. And, you know, he was part of the movie brats, you know, the first generation of movie makers who actually went to schools that were purposely built for studying film. Sense of entitlement, you know, you see a guy like Scorsese, 25 years old, coming out of film school, and now he wants to make movies, and everybody says, oh, get out of here, man. And he basically said that if you go to a film school, the only incentive to go to a film school is to get your hands on the equipment, to get your hands on the lights, to get your hands on the cameras, knowing the film theory, knowing the film history, knowing all of those isms, knowing all of that stuff is irrelevant. He says the most important thing is to get your hands on the equipment. There needs to be like an incentive for people to send the 20-year-olds to film schools to begin with, because when I graduated film school and I was approached by people who also had kids who wanted to make movies, and they kept asking me, what possible incentive is there for me, who's a hardworking taxpayer? What incentive is there for me to spend 200,000 Rand so that my 20-year-old kid can go to a film school for the next 3 years, and when he comes out, no one is going to give him a job?
There's no really answer to that. I mean, if I may say so, Ziggy, after he did his 2 years at film school, I think he told his lecturer that he thought he was a bloody idiot, which didn't go down terribly well. And so they parted ways at that point. Am I correct in that, Ziggy?
Yeah, I never said as much to the lecturer, but I certainly said as much to my peers. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
between AFTA, Open Window, Wits University, any institution out there, I think what needs to be done from a film school perspective, they need to facilitate a platform for people to make movies. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about, this 48-hour film project that you produced. Can you tell me what was it about the 48-hour film project that appealed to you as a filmmaker, and why you wanted to do it, and would you do it again?
A little bit of a backstory. Yeah, I've done a couple of like Nigerian movies and series.
Yeah.
And it's quick turnaround, low budget stuff, but they make a movie, you know, they make a series or they make a movie.
Nollywood.
And I've always wanted to kind of follow that model and be like, you know, let's just pull our resources together. And, you know, if you have a good script formed by, you know, good actors, then everything else is secondary to that. And we did exactly that at the beginning of the year. We made a film, an 80-minute film, which we're busy shopping around right now for distribution. And we set it mainly at Dad's house. We just used our resources. Actually, the 48-hour has always been in the back of my mind. It started in Joburg, I think, about 15 years ago. And I've always wanted to see if I could make a movie or a short movie in 48 hours. So we kind of went the opposite way around. We went and made the full movie. And then we're like, okay, what are we going to do now? Well, it's time we actually do the 48-hour film project. We've been saying we want to do it for the longest time. So that's what's cool about the 48 hours. Like, what can you make in 48 hours? And then I suppose like use those. So for anyone who wants to do the 48-hour project and can learn through it, like you can use the same principles that you've just learned to make. I mean, who's going to really buy a 4-minute, 5-minute film? What are you going to do? You're going to put it on the internet, you know. But if you can make a full-length feature film, you know, using similar principles that you've learned in the 48-hour, you might have something that you can sell one day.
And I mean that film that Ziggy was talking about now that we made, the 80-minute. I've the Schuster films. I mean, I've never made a film for less than 20 million.
Sure.
No, I did know that I did one for Netflix, which was 10 million.
We've never made a Schuster film for much.
So the Schuster films, yeah, the cheapest one I did was mainly because we take long, you know.
Can you tell me what was your experience like working the 48-hour, and would you encourage other aspiring filmmakers to also participate in the 48-hour?
I loved making the 48-hour. You know, I think all the filmmakers are going to have the same problem, which is that we're good at certain genres and other genres we're unfamiliar with, and everyone is hoping to get their genre. So me and Dad were hoping to get like comedy, you know, which we didn't get. And maybe that would be maybe someone else was hoping to not get comedy and they got comedy. I don't know. But I suppose what was nice was that it did take us out of our comfort zone.
It encourages community to make movies, because what happened was during the height of COVID, you couldn't get permission to shoot anywhere. You know, everything.
We made a full movie during COVID.
No, it was the second year of COVID, and let man finish that.
Yeah. But for somebody who doesn't have your credentials, who didn't work with Schuster, somebody who is just living from paycheck to paycheck, the idea of making a movie during hard lockdown was something that was inconceivable, because I didn't know how I was supposed to get actors. I didn't know where I was going to get costumes. I didn't know where I was going to get a location, because none of those things were available to me during the height of COVID, and especially having to take a 20% pay cut out of my paycheck just so that I would not be unemployed. Because they gave me the option. You have one or two choices. You can either resign and try to find something after the pandemic is over, or we keep you on the payroll. You stay away from the office, but you get a 20% deduction. So when I started making the movie, I had to come up with a solution. How am I going to do this? And again, I fell into complacency. I was thinking of excuses of why I shouldn't be doing this. And I go to the website and I see there are over 70 teams that have already registered to participate. And I thought, there is no excuse for you not to be doing this. So I paid the registration, and I now had to figure out how am I going to do this. So what I did was I used army figurines, these plastic 50-cent figurines, and I used pastels to create unique backgrounds. And I incorporated a green screen sheet.
I saw that.
Yeah, a green screen sheet of paper no bigger than this A4. And I started making a movie based on that. I basically did a 7-minute short film from my kitchen table. And I thought, this is just going to be some silly little experiment. No one's going to take me seriously. But the thing is, a project which I made on my kitchen table, it got a public screening at an actual theatre, at the Scale Clinical Theatre. And I thought to myself, I didn't win anything, I didn't win best cinematographer or best anything. But the thing is, it got a response, and it was insatiable. I wanted to get another response, and I thought I need to do this again.
Yeah, great.
And the next year after COVID was lifted, I went a bit bigger. I rented costumes, I got actors, I went to a heritage site, and we actually shot a movie at the Sammy Marks estate. And again, the reception was very positive. And I thought to myself, man, I have to keep going. I'm not at that stage where I have enough, I've got the qualification, but I don't have the experience to entertain someone like Gray Hofmeyr, who's going to, help let me be the DOP on a set. That's just not going to happen. Keep doing this. I need to keep making 48-hour movies. But the thing is, I need to go back to the beginning. In other words, I need to go back to the school where I graduated from, and I need to go to the film department and tell them, listen, and I tell them, listen, you guys don't have to pay me like a standard salary. You can pay me a minuscule salary. And I would use that money to pay students, to pay for costumes, to pay for location, to pay for whatever, and just make the movie.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and I think that is the incentive for any film school, is you just need someone to give the time and attention and love for the students. Because in the real world, and I'm sure you can vouch for this, people don't care that you've got an honors degree in cinematography. They don't care that you went to this school or that school. They just care if you can do the work. And the only way of doing the work is to do the actual work. And I just wanted to get your opinion as two professionals. Would you encourage people to send the 20-year-olds who just finished high school, would you encourage them to send their kids to an institution that would support an incentive like a 48-hour film project and have the students participate in a platform like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? And I do think that there's a lot of value that you get out of the lecturers. I mean, when I was at film school, Spike Lee was in the country, and he came and did a workshop with the students.
Wow.
So never, I think we've said that it's not about the piece of paper, but there's certainly a lot of people that you can learn from at film schools. And you also create, and I also spoke about networks. You start creating a network with the other students as well. So there's a lot of, the value in film school, I think, is not in the piece of paper that you get at the end of the day, but it's in the knowledge that you do acquire while you're there. But you don't have, but you don't have to go to film school. I did 2 years, I didn't finish film school. And Dad asked me, what am I going to do now? I said, give me the money that you would have spent on the school fees. I'm going to buy a camera, and I'm going to just continue on my own, which he agreed to. And I bought, then it was a mini DV camera, and I loaded editing software on my computer. And I did as I promised. I started just making, I was also just following what my friends were still doing in film school. And I was kind of just doing similar projects on the side. So I just continued by myself, basically. And so I did learn a hell of a lot on my own, but I also learned a hell of a lot while I was at film school from the lecturers and whatnot. And I started to create my network. So there's a lot to be said for you know, there's pros and I think there's more pros than anything of going to film school, but the pros are not in what you think it is. It's not in that piece of paper. It's not in the certificate at the end of the day. And it would be great if they get their students into programs like the 48-hour film project. That would be excellent for a film school to do.
Yeah, another problem, if I may mention, is not everybody can afford to send their kids to film school. And I'm sure that they do have some scholarships, that they dish out, but I would imagine it's not more than, 4 or 5 a year. I really have no idea. So, for those kids that have no way of affording to go to film school, I don't know. To repeat what I said earlier, you've just got to stick it out, and if you really want it badly enough, you'll find a way somehow to get this job. And if you impress people, because people in the film industry are always looking for people that will work hard and learn, and not bitch and look at the time and look at the clock and not go and smoke Zol all the bloody time, and so when you find those newcomers, you do hang on to them, and the ones that go and smoke Zol all the time at the back, they don't get to work again,
A platform such as the 48-hour film project is a wonderful incentive, and for one very obvious reason. It's because it's an internet-based platform. You can be based in any city in the world, and you can participate in any other 48-hour film project in the world. I remember during 2020 with the COVID, with the pandemic, there was this one team that was based in Florida, and they still competed in the Johannesburg 48-hour. And I think that is precisely the point of the platform, is they don't want to create a local-based community. They want to create a global-based community. The idea that a film school graduate or somebody who has access to a camera and the editing software, there are a lot of free editing softwares out there. You don't need the fancy Adobe software to actually make a movie. But if you have that background of, you've come from film school, you went to AFTA, you went to Open Window, and now you want to do this. The wonderful thing about the 48-hour film project is, if you have the money, you have the team, you have the facility, there is nothing stopping you from participating in the Los Angeles 48-hour film challenge, or the Le Mans one, or the Paris one, or the Sydney, or the Hong Kong. You can be based in Johannesburg. You can make a movie in this space right now. You can set up your green screen and your actors in costume, and you set up your camera, and you make your movie, and you submit it to the 48-hour that's taking place in Hong Kong.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. And I think that is the incentive that any institution needs to facilitate. They have to create this platform where they give the students access to the equipment, they give them access to the studio, and they tell them, just do the movie, just make it, but it needs to be around the calendar. There are 130 48-hour film challenges every single year. And if you have the facility, if you have the equipment, if you have the students, all you have to do is make the damn movie. That is as easy as it is. And I think you two are the outstanding example that vindicates you don't need that background to be in a film school to make a movie. But for the film schools out there who want to give people an incentive to send their kids to a film school to begin with, is to facilitate a platform like this and make the 48-hour film project mandatory to all students, because it's the only way you are going to build a portfolio, and the only way to make movies is to make the actual movie.
No, sure. I mean, when the little I know about AFTA, I mean, when you were there, Ziggy, I remember that they made about, I don't know, 3 or 4 full-length films The
Yeah.
students did,
Yeah.
which is, and they all worked on those films. I mean, I think as far as I know, all the students would have worked on it. Am I correct?
Yeah, like the first years would assist, you would be kind of patching cables and whatnot, and the second years would be patching lights, and the third years would be your HODs. Yeah, they did. They made great films.
Yeah, I remember. And the thing about the 24 hour is I mean, again, so there's an argument. You're talking about film schools using it.
Yes, it needs to be mandatory to all film schools.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think that's not a bad idea at all. But I keep coming back to the other 95% of youngsters who will not who are unable to go to film school. I mean, it's very difficult to get your first little step. That is the biggest problem. But I mean, okay, so we didn't pay any money to anybody to make our 24-hour Jimmy, because Ziggy owned his camera. So
Yeah.
and he has, edited, he's got the
on the laptop.
yeah, and he edits on the laptop. And we're fortunate that we know actors, so they came along and we did it with a tiny crew. I don't know, there was like 6 or something. And so I think it is a wonderful thing, the 24-hour thing.
The 48 hour.
The 48-hour one. But because I think it can also work for people that can't afford to go to film school, because it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And if you make a crap one, then you can do another one and it'll be better,
Yeah.
because it's not expensive. If you can find yourself $2,000, you'll be able to make a film.
Yeah, you use your own wardrobe.
Yeah, and everything. You do your own everything, man.
Mm.
And you get a real cheapo camera, and
Yeah, you can actually, they do say in the specs for the 48-hour, you can even use a cell phone. Most cell phones, they certainly film HD, and most of them are filming in 4K anyway.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very refreshing to hear this information, because when I went to the Durban Film Mart about 2 years ago, it was very interesting to see all these filmmakers pitch their ideas, because I was under the impression you go to the film mart to pitch like PowerPoints and saying, this is the budget I need, this is what I need, and this is who I hope to cast, only to learn that you need a finished product. There's no point in going to a film mart with a PowerPoint presentation and saying, this is how much money I need and this is what I want to shoot. Those broadcasters and buyers, they are looking to buy a finished product. The one guy who I spoke to, he says, the film industry is a lot like running a bakery. When you go to a bakery, the customer is not interested in knowing you need this much money for flour, you need this much money for eggs, you need this money for custard, you need this money, and this is how long it's going to take to bake the cake. No. He wants to step in, he wants to select a cake, he wants it to be wrapped, and he wants to buy it, and he wants to walk out. That is the nature of actually making a movie. Going to a broadcaster or a buyer and saying, I've got this idea for a movie, but I'm going to need you to give me R1 million to make it. It's not gonna happen.
Well, I mean, this movie that Ziggy and I did, and with Nikiwe as well. How much did we make it for? It was 800,000, I think.
Our hard spend was 800,000. And
And
we still have the diverted payments that we have to.
So I mean, I don't think it's possible to make an 80-minute movie for less than that, really.
Well, since we're on the subject of money and all that stuff, how important is product placement? Because I actually had the conversation with your wife the night I met her, because I talked about how difficult it is to apply for funding from the Gauteng Film Commission and the National Video Foundation and the Department of Trade. And she says, there's not really a point of going to a state-owned entity because they don't really have money to give you. I wanted to ask you the question, have you ever worked with a sponsor to help you make a movie?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, in the early Schuster films, we did get sponsorships. And there are professionals that search those things out. But we haven't done much lately, and it seems to be it's gone out of fashion. Somebody spoke to us. Yeah, it's not as easy. It's not easy to get sponsorships, and it's not cash. You know, so you can. I suppose it is cash, but I mean, in the early days, you know, we would go to Toyota, and what we would get is we would get the props for free, and also your cell phones, laptops, that sort of thing. People they're keen to get their brands onto the screen, but
They wouldn't give you full
it wasn't. We must have got some sort of cash, but it was never a lot of money. You know, it's not going to pay for your film.
I know, for instance, when you did the first Mr. Bones, where you shot in Sun City, did you guys approach Sun International to give you permission to facilitate Sun City so that you could shoot there? Or
we would have, you know, I mean, I those days I had nothing to do because Anand Singh was produced it, Video Vision, and so I had no access to the deals that were. I have no idea. I mean, knowing Anand, you know, he would have got some sort of a good deal, but they wouldn't have paid us to shoot there.
I just wanted to bring Ziggy into the conversation. You know, have you ever received sponsorship from a third party to do a production?
I remember we did a movie called Pop Lock and Roll, a dance film, and we tried many angles. We actually even wrote many angles to try and get, you know, product placement in. We even had an idea earlier on that our main character would be a tour guide on that. You know, those red buses around every city that take you on a tour.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, if he's a tour guide, then we could literally be driving past branding, you know, so like signage, and put so that any signage, you know, is quite organic in the film, so that we could literally approach any brand. And we tried even getting someone whose job it is to find those kind of endorsement deals, and it didn't happen because what we had was a script that was semi-financed, and we were trying to get like the last of the financing, which I think was through this idea of ours to get the sponsorship deals. But then the sponsors want to know, you know, what their reach is, you know, and you say, okay, well, it's gonna go to cinema. How many people go to the cinema? And it's not an easy. You see, we were making a dance film. We weren't making like a Leon Schuster film where you know you're going to get at least X amount of bums on seats. But there's no guarantees we could give anyone, even though we could say it's definitely going to start its run at cinema and then later go to television. But they don't know how successful this film that you're pitching to them is going to be. When I worked at Essie Dingo, I remember there was more brand sponsorship at Essie Dingo, because, you know, this thing is going on TV every single day, and these are the amount of viewers watching every single day. So it's much easier to get brands onto something like a daily soap, because you know more or less what the numbers of people watching are every single day. And they would have given Essie Dingo some money.
No, you know, I mean, the Schuster films, it's coming back to me now. And one of them, I forget which one, you know, it was one of the ones where there was a sporting event, and we got quite substantial, or Anand Singh got quite substantial money by us putting CGIing stuff onto the stadium and stuff like that, you know, onto the buses, and we we have a lot of that. But as Ziggy is saying, you've got to have the numbers and the history, and so it's all very, very well to say, but you only get those once you've achieved the big time. You know, when you're little time, you don't get those things. So it's the same problem. How do you get over the first steps, which are the most difficult?
Yeah, you guys have given us so much to work with, and I think, you know, if there are any film schools listening to this conversation, I would really encourage you to think about what these two gentlemen have said today, because the main thing to know is that the technology is out there, the software is out there. Everything that you need to make a movie is essentially for free. But the thing is, if you really want to make a movie, you need an incentive. And I think there's no greater incentive out there than the 40-hour film project. And I really think if you are a young person who has just started film school or you're just finishing film school, know that if you really want to make a movie, the 40-hour film project is the place where you start.